Hi guys, welcome back to the Improvement Season podcast. As always, it's myself, Steve Hall, on the other end, Pascal Floor. And I don't have any interesting... Oh yeah, you're just having your coffee. That's what I need to talk about.
Yeah.
You do espressos, right? You don't do the long black or a black coffee as such.
I like the shorter ones, the short, darker ones, not the long black ones.
Sweet. This is... Oh, sorry, it was lagging a little bit there for some reason. Yeah, what happened to me on the note of caffeine, the last week, I was just, you have those days where when you're dieting, you can just feel that you're like dwindling a little bit through the day. And I just decided, I've got a podcast later. I've got quite a hard training session. I'm going to do another can of not Monster. It's the Kong Strong, cheap little version. And I did another one. And that night, I just did not sleep well. Like I was tossing and turning. It was also hot though. So that probably contributed, but I think it was likely the caffeine. And I just realized my tolerance to caffeine is not very high. And weirdly enough, I was looking at, to me, it makes it sound like I'm a slow metabolizer of caffeine because that was all before, 11 in the morning. And it's not a crazy amount of caffeine. It's like 300 milligrams, if that, like maybe a bit less, something along those lines. But yeah, it always seems to impact my sleep if I go to that sort of number, which makes me, again, think it's slow metabolizer. But
yeah, and it's funny because most of the time, something like your situation that you're describing is just happening in a cutting phase. In a gaining phase, I sometimes even tend to only have 1 or 2 double espressos, whereas in a cutting phase, it's more so erring on the side of 3. And sometimes, if I'm really feeling the way that you described, which I very much can relate to, it can easily also be 4.
Yeah, and I just always remember this one paper where they had a double espresso first thing in the morning, and that still impacted their sleep negatively at night. And I'm just like, God damn it! Like, is there a way of having caffeine without it harming your sleep? Well, yeah, I think so, probably. Like, yeah, I think if you're habituated to a very low dose, I think probably your day-to-day okay, but yeah, just was a bit of a kick up the arse for me where I was just, I don't know, you get tempted to have it and then you're just like, yeah, I shouldn't have done that. It's kind of similar to, I don't know, you're hungry, so you decide, I'm going to eat this really fibrous filling thing. And then you're like, I've got stomach cramps or something like this. I shouldn't have done that.
Yeah, no, absolutely. How's the cut going, by the way, then?
Yeah, so obviously I checked in with Cliff yesterday. And that's the day whether or not he decides to make any changes. And I actually agree with him not making any changes. We made a very subtle change the week before. It was an 80 calorie drop for the week. So not a huge amount of calories at all. But I do think my weight was elevated, as I said last week, due to kind of having the Wagamama and the high amount of sodium that was in the chicken ramen. And then this Sunday, we didn't go out to eat. We had a barbecue at home. But I think it just led to higher fiber, and sometimes because of using MyFitnessPal and its self-entered data, some foods that might have fiber in them, people just don't log it because it's such a little amount, but those little amounts could add up. So I wonder if my fiber was actually higher than what I thought, because the next day I was kind of just feeling a bit bloated, a bit uncomfortable in the stomach. So I didn't actually realize that when I messaged Cliff, but yeah, he was happy with kind of how we're looking and where things are going. He actually, and I appreciated this, because I would say it, I think, if he didn't prompt me, but he asked, like in an email back, he was just like, how are you doing mentally? Because you're kind of, essentially, we're ready a little bit early. He was like, so you're in a good spot. If you're feeling it, like we have time to be able to pull back and put things on pause. So I just want to check that things are all right. But honestly, I feel pretty good. The hard thing is, I said this to Charlotte, I was like, in the moment, yeah, I actually, like, when we're checking in, I'm like, yeah, I feel good. And she was like, yeah, but do you remember how you felt like midweek towards the end of the week? Like your food focus was picking up a little bit, you were telling me, and you're a bit more fatigued. I was like, yeah, that's true. So I have to try and make sure to think about, like, how am I feeling through the week, not just like on that given day. Because I think after the weekend, that's when I have my refeeds.
This is why it's so important in a situation like this to log your current state, because it's so easy to forget. Like, let's say it is the next day and you're feeling so much better. you most of the time don't really perceive it that it was that bad, yeah, like yesterday. And especially when then a couple of days are even passing by, then you're reporting back to Cliff, and like, let's say on Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, you felt terrible, but then Thursday, Friday, Saturday, Sunday, and Sunday comes around with a check and you feel actually pretty good. I think that you kind of maybe play it down a little bit because you're not objectively, in quotation marks, objectively, right, writing things down, where you're just analyzing the current situation. And if you try to remember back, most of the time that's always inaccurate.
Yeah, I did mention I felt this was the first week. I'm glad I at least was aware of this enough. I just forgot the food focus part, but I'm aware enough to know, and I said this to him, that the days, like the last couple of days leading into the first refeed on the Friday, I did feel my energy levels dipping. Getting my steps in was more of a grind. I was feeling more fatigued within the gym, but nothing severe. Yeah. And it is a tough one though, because I had this in particular with Mike Chalice, where he obviously loves philosophy, he loves the Stoic mindset, and I think that's great, where you kind of focus on what you can control, don't focus on what you can't, and try and like be low stress, basically. Be a bit of a Buddhist almost. And I think that maybe bit him in the arse a little bit for us, because he was so like, yeah, I'm meant to be hungry, I'm meant to be tired, I'm like, this, it's meant to be tough. And I think it got to the point where it was actually, I needed to know that it was actually that tough, and he was feeling that beat up. But it was kind of like like psychological warfare, where you're trying to convince yourself it's not that bad and that it's not that tough. So then you don't necessarily report it as such, because you don't want to feed that back. It's sort of similar to on social media being a bit of a highlight reel, where you're like, yeah, it's easy, it's fine, because that's the persona you want to put across. You don't want to complain, but then you can actually forget what's going on actually internally.
It's a hard one, Steve, because I think it's always individual dependent. There are certain people who don't really want to bother other people with their issues, and they are swallowing then their problems instead of communicating that. And then you have the hypochondriacs who are just complaining about each and every single shit. And I think you can't ever make it right to someone else. You have to make it right to yourself. And of course, when Mike, in that case, in that example, is that kind of person who perseveres through tougher times, then there are plenty of other examples on the opposite side of the spectrum, where you have people complaining about the tiniest shit, where you're also then saying like, okay, this is not the way that I would like to have it, you know?
Yeah, you have to, and I've had both ends, and I think it's why it's so helpful having clients through diet phases, of course, but I mean, diet phases are not quite the same as contest prep, because you get to this point where it becomes really challenging, but through several seasons, because now I know that about Mike, and he knows it about himself too, so he'll try and be more aware of it, and so we'll be able to manage that better next time. And the same for clients who complain quite a lot, where next time I know, like if they're saying they're hungry, I'm like, yeah, I mean, you're not really that hungry, you can keep going, I just need to keep pushing you. And yeah, you kind of learn that person and how they work. So yeah, I think because Cliff has followed me for a while, we've had chats, we've met in person, of course, you've obviously met him as well, he probably gets how I tick a little bit, and he probably has a good read on people. It's probably same with you, Pascal. Like when you have initial consultation with someone, you get a bit of a good read of where are they on various like personality aspects, and how do you think it's going to go. Like if they're asking you loads of questions in that initial consultation about just, I don't know, random stuff, you're like, okay, so you're this kind of like very hyper-focused guy. Or if they're not divulging much, you're like, right, I'm going to have to ask you lots of questions to get more out of you. So it becomes, yeah, quite important to get that.
Yeah, no, absolutely. And also this is, of course, individual dependent, right? The person that you are as a coach and the way that you present yourself and the people that you are attracting. At some point, you have people who are fairly similar to another, whether you did it intentionally or not, because some coaches, of course, have a very, very specific niche that they are targeting, and they know exactly what type of demographic they want to work with and that they are working with. However, sometimes that's not the case. But over time, there is a pattern that you then can figure out, like, okay, most of the time I get these type of people probably because of the things that you're communicating, probably because of the things that you're saying, that then they can relate to, they can resonate with, and that's why they are then approaching you for then coaching. But yeah, it's like you said, most of the time the consultations give you already a pretty good understanding of what type of person that is. Sometimes you are then being surprised in a positive or negative way, but most of the time, especially after having done this for a very long time, get a good read on people.
Yeah. I mean, you make a great point with that kind of self-selecting by the content you put out, because people, if they resonate with what you're saying and your personality and, I don't know, your methodologies, you're kind of self-selecting for a certain type of individual for sure, especially the longer you do this. That makes so much sense. But yeah, I guess, so to answer your question, so the diet, yeah, it's going well. I can't complain. I haven't seen a weigh-in below...
What is it now? Wait a second. 10 minutes in?
Yeah, I didn't really answer the question. Yeah, I haven't seen a weigh-in below 180 pounds, which I'm... know most people probably listening might use kilos. Oh, they might not. We have a lot of US-based listeners, so maybe they use pounds. But anyway, I know once I'm below 180, like that's... And I kind of don't want my psychology to let me go that way, because I just want to like ride it through and not be like, oh, I'm below 180 pounds. That's when shit gets real. But that's when I'm like, hey, that's really firing range for when I'm going to be contest ready. It was funny actually as well. Like, I don't know... Yeah, someone asked me how much muscle they think I've gained since 2021. And I was like, I really don't know. Like, I'd love if I'd gained 2 kilos of muscle mass over like 2-3 years. But maybe it could only be 1, or it could be less than 1 kilo. But people seem to think that I've dramatically changed since my last competition prep. I'm like, have I? I don't know. I don't know if it's just that old thing that we say, every like pound you're above average, you just start looking like exponentially larger, or maybe just the camera quality and of my iPhone in this gym, like it's just picking up things that it wasn't before.
I think that's a very fair point though, Steve, honestly, because every single time not every single time, but often I even ask myself this kind of question whenever I see a transformation picture online, and it's a horrendous picture from like 15 years ago. Also they are recorded with a mobile device camera, which were very, very terrible if people do remember that time frame. And then a comparison to nowadays, taken with the latest iPhone or with a DSLR camera. The quality alone makes a huge difference. The lighting makes a huge difference. It's even something that I'm saying to lots of my athletes, especially the ones who are in contest prep, that I want them to go through our coaching handbook, because I have an explanation of how to then set up proper lighting, and also how it impacts then the camera and the quality. Because if you have poor lighting, most of the time, those sensors in the mobile devices, they are pretty small and they are not great in low light situations. And by that, it's getting pretty grainy because it needs to bump up the ISO, and hence you're losing a lot of details. And if you're then going outside, for example, or you're taking it in very, very good lighting that is appropriate for the camera itself, you automatically look so much bigger, so much more defined, etc., etc. And I think you're bringing up a good point, because you have to take that into consideration as well when you're then comparing yourself to a couple of years back. In certain situations, though, you can clearly see the difference, that it's not just lighting and not just the camera. That's for sure, right? But if you're just comparing yourself to like a couple of weeks or months back, your body weight is kind of the same and all that kind of stuff, you're not really expecting to see massive differences.
Yeah, it's even as much as like on the same day, I could check in my like standard lighting here, or in Yorkies underneath like the overhead lighting. And if I'm under the overhead lighting, it just hits my chest in a way where it looks completely like striated through. Whereas when I'm in my standard lighting here, I don't get shadows on my chest. You can't see it. It's there. You just can't see it. It's little things like that that people don't realize. And that's why, especially as competitors, like that consistent lighting is so important. Because you could be like, you might look leaner, but it's just shadows hitting you differently.
Yeah, I have it as well with my phone, which is the Google Pixel 6. in my personal opinion, because you don't have any kind of manual adjustments there, or those manual adjustments that are available in the camera software app is for the layman, right? But I want to have proper ability to then adjust ISO, the aperture, and also the shutter speed, which is not possible here, which is unfortunate. And also the processing software that is on that phone, which is also on the iPhone, is pretty good actually. The processing software, which then enhances and kind of calculates the light that is coming into the camera, and then by that giving you that image. In iPhone, it's amazing. Here, it's doing something pretty weird every single time that it's in a weird kind of lighting situation, and it's kind of more like an HDR. So a high dynamic range picture, which then makes it pretty flat to begin with, that picture. And you never really look great, honestly. It's such a bummer. And I think, and I bet that many people have it the same way when they have their mobile device. That picture that I've just posted in my gym setting, right? I can promise you this, Steve. I look much more defined and much better than that picture there, but it's just giving out a super flat light or a super flat picture with the phone that I'm taking those pictures with. That has to be taken into consideration as well. And if you're then changing your camera, so going over to something like an iPhone, switching from an Android phone, or I don't know, whatever kind of other device you're using, or you're switching over to a DSLR camera, which has even a broader dynamic range, the changes can be quite drastic, to be honest.
Yeah, you've probably seen it with clients who have done photo shoots where they are completely blown away because they're seeing their physique like they've never seen it before. And that's under basically ideal conditions with a really good photographer who's getting you in good posing and with the excellent camera, knows how to use it under really good lighting conditions. And it's just like, I think you bring up a really good point there. If someone who's been lifting a long time has never done a photo shoot or something along those lines, man, go do one, because I think you'll just get so much of like positive reinforcement for your efforts. Because if you've only ever seen yourself in like shitty conditions or with, again, like a not great camera, you might think that you're not getting as good results as you actually are, and it will just be so rewarding to do a photo shoot or like have that ability to see your physique under.
I've never done a proper photo shoot, Steve.
No, you haven't.
When it comes to kind of
you
physique,
totally should do one, because through your tattoos that would look
I've been
freaking
thinking
cool
about
as well.
this here recently, but to me it's not that important. I know from a business perspective it would probably be a good idea, but for me personally, to have it for myself, I don't really care as much. I don't need those pictures to confirm what I look like, for example, and I'm not prepping for a photo shoot to then regain that weight again, so that it was just like that temporary moment where I was looking the very leanest or so. But that's just me, of course, that is.
It's funny, I've considered getting a photo shoot done in like this short-term moment now, because you see people go through their comp prep and they have like videographers the whole way, which I guess I did with Gordon actually in 2021, and he was doing photos most times. It was quite cool to have those, and they do become useful from a like business marketing perspective, because I use them for various, just in various places all the time, because they're much better than I can capture. And whenever I'm getting photos and videos, I'm in the same spot, in the same positions, because you can only do so much when you've got your own camera and like tripod and stuff. So yeah, it just made me think maybe I want to get a photo shoot done just, I don't know, in the next months, just to document this part of the process and stuff. But yeah, I can totally see if they hear what we've mentioned there and they're like, I'm not that fussed. Like I'm happy with how things are and that I'm doing just fine, and it doesn't entice me to see my physique under like ideal conditions particularly, then totally fair enough. But I know it appeals. I'm always surprised by how many people do photo shoots, but actually thinking about it now, it makes complete sense. You kind of get your photo shoot if you compete on the stage, because that is meant to be hopefully ideal lighting, a professional photographer there, so you get really good photos. So you don't so much feel like you need it, but outside of that, if you're not a competitor and you finish a fat loss phase, you feel really proud of that and you want to document it. I totally see the value in that now.
Yeah,
for sure.
No, absolutely. Steve, yeah. All right. I thought that you wanted to. I've been playing a little bit around here over the past. I've spent way too much time with that here over the past days, with voice cloning and a local voice generator, because all the things that you're finding online, right, are of course paid services, and they are super expensive. And I was playing around, and yet I haven't really yet figured out the perfect way to train the AI, unfortunately. Otherwise, I would just, in the future, copy your voice and then do the podcast just by myself, just with you, and then doing some deep fake shit.
Does it, because I think I've seen, I think I saw Chris Williamson always bring this guy up, right? But I'm pretty sure he got, I don't know, some AI to basically answer questions based off what they think the AI thinks he would say. And so in some places he was like, oh, that was a pretty decent answer. That's probably what I'd say. In other cases he was like, I mean,
there are pretty good models out there online. I mean, especially for voice cloning and voice generating. 11 Labs, for example, is a good one. But once again, it is pretty expensive. It would cost $330 per month for 40 hours of audio. Now, 40 hours is, to be fair, quite a lot, but 330, it's just like, I don't know. For me, it's just playing a little bit around, you know? And
I was going to say, what would you use it for?
Yeah, it's just out of curiosity. And training my own model is something that I find a little bit more interesting and sparks my curiosity a little bit more. But it's actually quite complicated to do this. It was already getting there to just have kind of the model running on my computer pretty tough. And yeah, now training it is a lot of data that I'm actually needing to ingest into the machine, that it's learning kind of the tonality of the voice and all that kind of stuff, which is unfortunate.
Yeah, it's kind of scary. I know Instagram now has that feature where if you've used AI to generate your content, you have to, you're meant to tick a box or whatever.
I find it good though. I find it very good, to be honest. Especially when you, and this I have a kind of a love-hate relationship with, Steve, because you know how I perceive kind of influencers, most influencers. Some, of course, deliver very, very high value, to be honest. And I would hate it if certain people would disappear from not Earth, but the digital realm, because they are really, really putting out some highly valuable content. However, that's not most influencers, right? And that's why I love the rise of AI, because it would make so many of those influencers redundant. If companies in the future create their own influencers, they would never really need to pay those kind of influencers a hefty amount just to promote their product, right? They have their own kind of influencers, their own company influencers. And I love it at the same time, because once again, it makes a lot of those, in my opinion, useless people pretty much redundant. And at the same time, I find it sad because you can manipulate so many things then with it, but it's more like the dystopian view, because it would impact us as well to some extent.
Yeah, I guess it comes back to if are you going to be as influenced by knowing that it's an AI influencer or a real person? I don't know if they have to disclose that it's an AI.
Steve, but people will. Because have you ever seen those AI influencers, like the females who have now already hundreds of thousands of followers, because they look amazing. They look pretty good. And
I saw one with pink hair.
Yeah, for example,
a while ago.
That Spanish girl, for example,
you know much more than me.
Yeah, that is crazy. And people don't really give a fuck, right? Because it's all digital anyway. And if it looks real enough, they don't care, right? So and also AI, if we had that discussion in the past, AI will be much, much better to serve your needs and your desires than any kind of other person behind a monitor on the opposite side of the world.
Yeah, my thought is they're reviewing, like when I think about an influencer, it's meant to be, oh, you follow this man or woman because they're someone you trust for their opinion. And so if they're giving their opinion and they back a product, then you're more invested in that product. But an AI, there's no one to know, like, and trust. It's just, well, clearly this is going to be, it's the company's AI. They're just going to be
sorry to
singing
say
the praises
this,
of the product.
I think that's a little bit naive and ignorant to think that way, because that would imply that all or most of the influencers that you're talking about do it for a cause to really help people.
Oh, no, I'm not saying they necessarily do, but I think people watching are naive to the fact. But the people aren't doing it.
But does it really make any kind of difference to the customer and the viewer if there's a real person deceiving them or an AI deceiving them? Not really. The outcome is kind of the same.
Yeah, I don't know. It'll be interesting to see. I know at least if I was seeing, I don't know, I don't really use, influencer marketing doesn't really influence me. I can see straight through it because especially in the fitness space, you just know it all too well. But it's, and in fact, if it can get rid of these individuals who are just clearly out there to sell a product, that'd be great, because so many of them have just clear incentives. I don't know, they just, whenever I see someone really talking about supplements as if it's a game changer, it just winds me up, because I'm just like, man, there's no, it's a supplement. It says what it is on the tin. It's supplementing so much else.
I really do believe that then authenticity becomes ever more so important. Because AI, of course, always takes something from a database, right? And you have to feed it and ingest it. And of course, how it will develop over the next couple of years is something that no one can really predict. But I think that then a unique way of maybe putting things out there, authenticity, something that can't be replicated at first, right? I think machine learning will be so fast at some point that it can then quickly replicate those kind of things. But I think that having that unique touch, having something that is not just generalized, because that is what AI does. It takes all of the information and puts out generalized content. It's kind of the same. Go over to ChatGPT and ask him okay, give me 20 names for my little boy. Then it scrolls through the data that has been fed to him and gives you all those most popular probably names, right? There's nothing really unique about this. And I think that then over time, it becomes ever more so important to really be authentic, to set yourself apart from also other people. And I mean, to be fair, it has always been that case. This is also why when it comes to cosmetic surgery and also people who truly are, and this is not meant in an offensive manner, but most people who are undergoing cosmetic surgery, at some point, if they do it a lot, they all look the same. All look the same. And those who really stand out, because it's kind of the saying of a natural beauty, it really then stands out. And that's something that you can probably also extrapolate to content creation, to coaching, for example, that can't be replicated because it's kind of just you have that data in your head.
Yeah, it actually reminds me of I think we're talking about online coaching and how to stand out, or we often talk about it in some kind of sense. And I think when we were first getting into this, even before that, macros and flexible dieting and that sort of thing was quite novel and new. And you could stand out just because you understood those basics. Whereas now, everyone understands that for the most part. Now, a lot of the information is widely available. You don't stand out based off your information. You stand out because of your personality, you as an individual. And I think that's going to become even more of a thing as we move forward. At least in our little industry. But you see it elsewhere. If I want to get some artwork, such as you can't see them, but the ones behind me, I could get printouts from a major website that hundreds of thousands of people have got. but I purposely found someone who drew it themselves because there's something about someone drawing it themselves that I wanted it as like it's the only one like that type of thing. So I think, yeah, in general in the world, that's become more and more in demand, is that like, you like, I can't remember what you said exactly, but that like individual spin on it that's like very authentic, that's not just like everyone else.
Yeah. I think then that uniqueness becomes ever more so important. I mean, it has always been somewhat important, but I think that the more generalized content can be put out by not just people anymore, but also then AI generated stuff. I think that then having that unique spin on something becomes so important, I think, like honestly. But this is, of course, just my assumption. It can perhaps also go completely the other way, that we are then living in a communist society and we are being fed with what is acceptable to say, all that kind of stuff, you know?
Yeah. Well,
like,
is this a good time for a break?
Yeah, let's do this.
Do you not see the progress you would like? Are you sick of writing your own programs? Or perhaps you need some accountability in order to stick with a plan? Then it's time to start working with us. We at Revive Stronger offer a truly personalized coaching service. You'll get more than just an email with some macros or random cookie cutter program. With Revive Stronger, you will be the center of our attention. You will receive your own fully individualized training protocol alongside a customized nutritional strategy. We created the coaching around your needs, wants, personal preferences, and your own unique lifestyle. Every single week, we delve into your program in order to make appropriate adjustments so that we get the most out of your time and the best possible outcome. We help both female and male athletes to seriously change their body composition by adding more muscle mass and decreasing fat tissue. No matter if you're a competitive bodybuilder or just want to look better, if you need help with your progress and taking your physique to the next level, our coaching is for you. It's time to make a change. Sign up today and let's revive stronger.
So back again here, without any kind of dystopian kind of things anymore to say. Steve, what else is there? Anything that you've seen so far that you want to talk about, or anything alike?
Oh, the thing that comes to mind as you say that, because there's nothing particularly that I've seen that's like really come to light that I want to chat about. Actually, a couple of things come to mind now, but one of them I'm going to talk about. This one was David Kay. So not many of the listeners might know of David Kay, but he is one of the best natural bodybuilders in the UK, in the world, sorry, but he's from the UK, and I think he is a DFAC pro. Primarily, that's who he competes with through the BNBF in the UK. And unreal, like you just look him up on Instagram, David Kay, and you'll just be blown away by his physique. He's put together incredibly well, has tons of muscle mass, comes in very well conditioned. He has everything. I think if you know Nathan PT, again, Google or search Nathan PT, they competed against one another, and David ended up taking it from Nathan. And Nathan is wildly like huge and shredded and an unbelievable bodybuilder. So anyway, to put it that way, he made a post recently, and it's funny because I think maybe 4 or 5 years ago, I would have read that post from him and been like, it probably would have wound me up, and I wouldn't have agreed with it very much, and I would have been frustrated by it. But now I read it and I'm like, I totally get his sentiment. I can't say I agree with it wholeheartedly 100%, but he made so many good points that I have reflected on over the last 5 years, and I know you have as well, Pascal. And I haven't got it up and I can't read it off to you, but it was essentially just saying, it was that sort of sentiment of bodybuilders have been there, done that. They've left a blueprint, is the way he put it, as in success leaves clues. Science seems to be getting in the way for people generating results. And I think he strawmanned science, but it's probably some people he's seen who are promoting a certain way of training and lifting. And it's making, I think in a way he was saying, essentially making people anti-fragile. And I could definitely see how science could do that in terms of when you think about, leaving reps in reserve, SFR, be scared of fatigue, these sort of elements. And so I kind of, on the whole, really enjoyed his message, and I think it would really help a lot of people, because he was essentially just saying like, kind of hard work goes a long way. The heavy basics really work very well, like focus on the big rocks type of thing, and it will take you far. And I definitely see that. But it's something else I've been reflecting on recently, and you've probably seen this too, Pascal, and we probably had people say it to us where it's like, why aren't there any big science-trained lifters or science-based lifters? Why is everyone who's like science-based small and skinny and like whatever? And I actually think the reason for that is because if you don't find getting results come easily to you, then you of course look for answers. And this is exactly what led me to evidence-based practice. Was I didn't see results really easily, so then I wanted to find answers of how. And I was like, science seems like the kind of surest path to the truth of how I get more muscular and jacked. So I go down that path. Whereas if results come easy to you, aka you're more genetically blessed more than likely, you're not going to search for answers in the same way. You're going to just use the basics that have worked for you, which worked for the other bros, which is what you got your information from. So I think it's not that like evidence-based practice leads to worse results. It's just that people who struggle to get results are drawn to it to try and get better results, because if you're already getting great results, why would you go down that path? It's just something I've been reflecting on recently, because it comes back to that success leaves clues, but that could leave someone who isn't seeing results via the methods that are working for maybe the more genetically well endowed with being clueless. And actually, success leaves clues for someone less genetically well endowed might lead them to science, and actually that generates better results for them. It's just like a framework of something I've been thinking about. So yeah, that's my thought on something I saw this week that was maybe want to talk about it.
Yeah, absolutely. I have many thoughts about this, simply because if you were to dissect this and take this one step at a time, and because it is kind of building a little bit of a straw man, based on what it is that I now heard from you. And it doesn't really take all of the things into consideration. So at first, how long has bodybuilding been around, right? Competitively, like let's say 70s or so, right? It has always been dominated by kind of anecdotal evidence all the way up until, what was it? When did exercise science really had its breakthrough?
Gosh.
2010, 2011?
That's what I would say.
Right? It hasn't been around for that long. Thus, the sample size is much, much lower to compare it to the classical bodybuilding type of people. Secondarily, the information is much more likely to still drive you towards kind of the classical approach of bodybuilding instead of going down the route of exercise science. Thirdly, we don't have enough evidence to say that this is the case. Right? And now I know what this sounds like. We don't have enough evidence to support the fact that evidence-based lifting isn't really yielding the best results or something like this. We don't have enough evidence because it hasn't been around long enough. And fourthly, it is boiling down to the fact that those people who approach bodybuilding, who don't see the results, what's most of the time happening? Is it the people that then just continue doing things the way that it is? Most likely not. They are either dropping lifting altogether because it's demotivating. They are not seeing the results that they would like to with the amount of effort they are bringing forth. And secondly, it's also like, how many people do you know, Steve, who start something, it's becoming hard, and they are then, instead of dropping out, taking the time and effort to learn more about something? It's hardly ever the case, right? Because especially when we're getting older, other priorities come into play, other things get in our way. So by that alone, a huge amount of people are dropping out of it. That's not to say that there isn't some truth to it, probably. I could very much also see that some people, they are not training hard enough. But is it because evidence-based lifting or the information that they have is in their way? Or is it just because of their overall starting point, that they would be the ones needing to train even harder and even more volume and all that kind of stuff, right? So I think that there are many, many ways to look at a statement like this and to really take it apart, because it just lacks substance, in my opinion. It's kind of the same thing when other people are claiming like, train hard and eat big, something like this. Like, what does this even mean, right? It in general, yes, I know what it is that they're trying to say, but that doesn't really work for everyone. And it's kind of a clear survivorship bias where it's like, yeah, but it works for him. But do you have the evidence of people who that didn't work for? No, because they stopped a long time ago because it didn't really work for them. So I think it's an easy cop-out argument to be made of like, yeah, you need to bring the effort, right? Your evidence-based practices are standing in your way. It may apply to a certain amount of people, for sure, right? But you can also turn it around that there are a lot of people training like a maniac in the gym and shredding themselves apart while not seeing the best results, right? I think it's way too early to actually throw the baby out of the bathwater. Is it that saying? I think so.
Yeah, that is the saying. Yeah. So yeah, I think you make some great points. I think it is normally when I see like, if someone's seeing results, they're evidence-based as far as I'm concerned, because you can't go against like general broad principles of progressive overload, meeting thresholds for volume, that sort of thing, and not see results. So if someone's seeing great results, they're still evidence-based. And if someone isn't seeing results, it's probably because they're applying things incorrectly most of the time. Like they think they're at an RAR3, but they're at 6, 7. They think they're training to failure, but they're not even close. Like these sort of things.
And this, Steve, doesn't imply that it's stemming from the fact that they are applying scientific principles, or that they have read certain papers, or following people that are providing the evidence and all that kind of stuff, then applying it and not seeing the results. So many people are trying to train, not even having had or being exposed to those certain individuals, because I would say that evidence-based fitness is still fairly much a niche, while people such as Jeff Nippert and especially also Mike have made it a little bit more prominent now. It is still fairly much a niche thing. And
Mike is blown up, by the way.
Absolutely.
I hadn't even quite realized. They hit 1 million followers and I kind of lost track. I don't know where they're at now, but he is everywhere. Yeah. Like I'm seeing him on so many podcasts I'd never even heard of, but are huge. So, and I think that's amazing. Like it's kind of scary to some extent, because I think some of the listeners feel this way. Like we had people like Mike and Eric and like, I don't know, Menno. And it's like, they're like our little secret of just like incredibly educated, well thought out individuals that we could use to our disposal to get better results. It's like, oh, now they're sharing that information with everyone. Same with Jeff Nippert, I guess, actually, when he started growing bigger. And it's like, oh, now you can see in gyms, people applying Jeff's methods. Whoa.
Steve, to some extent, in regards to seeing results in the gym and then making those claims, it is kind of fairly similar to rich people being rich. It's not because they are the smartest people around. It's not because they are the hardest working people around, right? Often they were just in the right position at the right time. And when it comes to kind of lifting, you can kind of warp it to some extent the same way that you've been at the at the right position at the right time to be getting the genes, so genetics, and also be able to then find something like expressing those genes and benefiting from them. It doesn't really tell you anything about your smarts or your knowledge or anything alike. And it would be also there unfair to make that claim that evidence-based practice or scientific principles are the culprit for a huge amount of people's lack of results.
Yeah, I think the thing that I liked that David said there was there's paralysis by analysis, which I definitely think happens, and that bodybuilding and building muscle isn't rocket science. Actually, I said that recently, but he essentially said the same thing, where people are just kind of overthinking minor things, maybe getting the cart before the horse in a sense, and they're forgetting like the fundamental things that make bodybuilding and the same basics that drive results for everyone apply even when you're trying to use evidence-based practice. And I think that was the thing where I was like, yeah, that's a good reminder for people. But what I don't agree with is potentially people might read it and be like, oh, so I shouldn't listen to evidence-based practice at all. I should ignore the science because that's clearly driving people down the wrong path, where it's like, actually applied correctly, it should be refining and improving things. I always think about, I don't know, again, bring it back to macros. like how many years ago did they come in? And before that, what were bodybuilders doing? They were just eating to meal plans. They didn't really know why that was driving results. They couldn't kind of put it into, oh, these are the principles, the macros, and then I need this much protein per body weight, and I can further optimize results, kind of spare more towards carbs, because bodybuilders for the longest time are doing way excessive amounts of protein. I can use this much fat to like optimize essential fatty acids and hormone production. Like science is driving that, and we're getting that knowledge there. So it's for sure enhancing the space, no doubt about it. It's just there are small things that I think people overthink and ends up taking them away from the big rocks.
100%. And I'm not trying to defend anyone. Like, honestly, I think that a lot of people would do much, much better bringing the intensity to the gym, right? Instead of focusing on the most pristine technique of them all. And also being more like a bro at times. So, for example, when it comes to eating, instead of doing some kind of mental masturbation as to why that protein bar fits now your meal schedule and all that kind of stuff, you know. Most of the time, the complication of not seeing any kind of results or being hungry on a diet is because those fundamental things are not really in place. And that's independent of scientific principles or evidence-based kind of practices. Is more like that sometimes you're then exposed to certain evidence and you abuse that evidence to make it fit your lifestyle, when in reality it shouldn't be like this. It should then maybe enhance certain things. It should help you understand certain things as to how you can then apply certain principles. Let's just say the lengthened partials is a great example of that, right? Instead of now being all about, okay, everything is now lengthened partials, you can apply it in a way that allows you to still train through that range of motion without worrying that you're losing all of your gains because you're not doing full range of motion anymore, you know? And I think that this is where then the problem arises. It has nothing really to do with scientific principles itself or evidence-based practices, because that is neutral. It doesn't really care about anything, right? It doesn't really want to prove someone wrong or anything alike. It's more like how we then interpret that, how we then apply it. And often it is that people then apply it in the wrong fashion, abuse it. And this kind of also goes back to the example that you brought up, Steve, with macros. When this came out with If It Fits Your Macros, it was completely abused by a huge amount of people, who then went down kind of developing pretty nasty relationships with food.
Yeah, I agree. It's actually interesting. I've been listening to Joe Klemkeski. I always say his name wrong. Dr. Joe. He was one of the people that kind of, along, I think, with like Lyle McDonald, brought about macro tracking and flexible dieting to the masses. I've been listening to quite a bit of his content recently because he's been reflecting upon that people have been almost moving away from macros to like mindful eating and intuitive eating, and being like, oh, is this driving results? So we'll be having him on next week to discuss the kind of background behind that and where he sees things going, because I think you'll really enjoy that. I think I will as well, because yeah, I think he's just a very bright individual. I can't remember how many like degrees he's got, like a stupid number. It's like in double digits, the number of degrees he's got, which is kind of crazy. So I'm going to look forward to doing that. We got almost 10 minutes left. Have we got enough time? Is it too much time to talk about anime?
Nah, I think it's the appropriate time.
Ideal time
to talk about.
We haven't really spoken about it.
The thing is, it could be that I need to leave spontaneously because I'm expecting a parcel here, and my live view says that it is actually 4 stops away, and I would like to actually then take it on instead of letting it sit in front of my Porsche. So if that's all right, then I'm heading down spontaneously and saying goodbye, and you can then say goodbye to the audience. All right, Steve?
That's not a problem.
Okay. So Demon Slayer, final episode of the season.
I haven't watched it yet.
Oh, Steve.
When did you watch it? You must have literally watched it yesterday, right? Yeah. So
because
I didn't have any
on Sunday,
time yesterday.
it wasn't out at the usual time because it was a little bit of a longer episode. But to be honest,
No spoilers.
No spoilers. But I'm just concluding the entire season. The season itself has been pretty disappointing for me personally. It was too much building of background stories of the characters and all that kind of stuff. I think that you could have done it a little bit more compressed, in my opinion.
Right.
But the entire season like this was a little bit disappointing for me. The last episode was good, but my most favorite season is still kind of the second season, the Red Light District arc. The last...
That's with Flashy,
fight,
right?
Man, the last episode was killer, right? And it is very hard to beat. Perhaps it will come in the future, but yeah, that's my conclusion of kind of Demon Slayer this season.
I'm excited to see it. I don't know when I'll be able to watch it because, I haven't. Basically, unless Charlotte's out in the evening, I don't put time. I watch my TV in the evening, or on weekends. It can be any time, right? Pretty much. So I'll either watch it this weekend or I'll find a spot during the week where I can watch it. How long is it? Like 40 minutes?
40 minutes, yeah.
Yeah. Actually, I caught, and I don't know if we've spoken about it. I feel like you maybe mentioned it. Kaiju 8? Is that what it's called?
Kaiju number 8.
Yeah, I'd seen it popping up on my Instagram, and I was like, oh, what is this? So I searched it up, and I've watched 2 episodes, I think.
Yeah.
So I'm excited to get into that.
Finished.
I don't know if
it also
you
just finished the first season. I'm reading the manga, but the animation is very, very cool. Like honestly, sometimes you have it, or not so much nowadays anymore. Most of the time, the big studios are taking over those also fairly successful mangas, and you were already able to expect that Kaiju number 8, because Mapper has been animating that, is going to be pretty, pretty good. And it did deliver, to be honest.
Yeah, I'm excited. I know it's building. Like, I'm excited to see it build because I want him to just get into some deep shit of battles and stuff, whereas it hasn't happened yet. It's been a bit PG, but even the first episode kind of hooked me. I was like, this is fun and exciting.
Yeah,
I can see this going down a cool route. So
yeah,
I enjoyed that.
I'm just so much looking forward to Kagurabachi. I really do hope so. It's an anime. It's a manga with magic swords and all that kind of stuff. It is amazing, and I would love this. No. It's kind of as always in Japan, and there's this one guy who was capable of putting some magic into those swords, and he created a couple of blades, and those blades were stolen, and he was being murdered by it in the process of while they were stolen. And his son actually watched the entire thing, and he received a sword from his father, the last one, and now he tries to get back all of the swords because that's the heritage of his family, and is actually pretty good.
I like that premise. Yeah, that sounds cool.
And I would love this to then be animated at some point, also from one of the big studios, because I think it's going to be pretty amazing from the animation and all the kind of stuff.
The only other one that comes to mind that I recently noticed was released on Netflix was why have I forgotten his name? The one that takes the piss out of other animes, One Punch Man. There you go. Mm-hmm. Yeah, season 2. So I've watched like 2 episodes of that.
But I mean, season 2 has been out since like years already.
Oh, has it? It's only just popped up on. Was it season 2? It felt like a new series.
Yeah, but maybe Netflix purchased the license to actually then put it out there. But actually, we're waiting for season 3, and it's going to be amazing. I can tell you that. I've also read the manga, and yeah. That's
a bad guy, right? Garou, is that how you say his name? Yeah, Garou, I'd seen him, but so that makes sense that season 2's been out a while, because I'd seen him, but now I'm only just learning who he is within season 2.
He's a pretty cool character, to be honest.
Yeah, he's just like killing everyone so far.
And I hope that season 3 covers all of the arc, the rest of the arc, because it's going to be pretty wild.
That's cool.
I can promise you that.
Apart from those, the only other thing that comes to mind is, I haven't watched any of the episodes yet, but I don't know if you ever watched Monster Rancher.
No, never heard of that.
I recognize all the characters from childhood, and I know I watched bits of episodes, and for whatever reason, it's triggering some fond memories. So I like searched it up and I found it. So I might try and watch some episodes of that.
Never heard of that.
It kind of looks like Pokemon-like, but it's not. It's not Digimon or Pokemon. Did you watch Digimon?
Yeah.
Digimon I have good memories of as well.
Yeah, man, that was just like our generation. That was the age when we grew up, kind of Yu-Gi-Oh, Pokemon, Digimon, One Piece. Then we have had Beyblade.
Beyblade I did, yep.
Detective Conan, all those kind of good old things.
And I can't say I haven't watched the latest episode of Acolyte either, but that's come out, and I don't think it's still just not going down well, which is just quite fun in its own right. I only heard
bad things so far, so yeah.
I don't know why I enjoy watching the reviews of shows so much. Like I just really enjoy it, and for some reason, especially when it's bad, it just is even more enjoyable.
I think it's good though, because sometimes you don't really notice certain things and certain reasons as to why something was happening. And then it puts a little bit of a different context to it as well. And then you often understand certain things much, much better. Because, I mean, camera guys and all that kind of, they are creators after. And often there's a purpose as to why they are doing a certain lighting a specific way, or they're working with specific colors, or with sound, atmosphere, and all that kind of stuff. And I think that if you then understand it, you can start to appreciate the art a little bit more.
Yeah, I'd say, especially for shows that people enjoy, like I've done this with Naruto and Attack on Titan a lot, is watching kind of like deep dives, retrospective analysis of certain scenes and things.
Yeah, especially Attack on Titans. Yeah,
it just brings another level of understanding and almost then enjoyment and respect for the show itself. So if there are shows like that, The Acolyte, I don't think there's too much deep diving going on, because it's not that deep. It's quite surface level, at least from what I've seen so far. And yeah, I hate to be another like hater, but I think the majority of people are thinking this way for a reason, because it's not that great.
All right, let's end it here, Steve, because otherwise we're
the package. You don't want to lose that.
But it's more like we don't want to spend 10 minutes talking about those kind of things unless people really enjoy it. I don't know. You guys can let us know in the comment section below whether you enjoy something. What is it, Steve? Something very much...
The anime corner, I don't know.
Yeah.
This is something I'd been thinking about.
Easy to listen to.
A quick side note. I know for a while we'd spoken to Gordon about my vlogs being on a separate channel, and I'm considering now releasing them off this podcast platform, like so that this is long form podcasts all come on this channel, and releasing it on my personal channel. And then I'm like, it'll be quite cool, because it'll really open me up to, I can talk about whatever I want. It doesn't have to be fitness related either.
That's the thing, right?
I'm considering that.
No, absolutely. I think then it's all about you. Like, honestly, just about you, and not just about kind of experts, because some people are coming to this platform just expecting to listen to podcasts, and they don't really want to see you eat something, for example. Most of the time it's very much appreciated, right? But I could definitely see that there's a much, much more value also for you, Steve, of being then willing to just talk about certain things, do certain content, because it's then just like content creation.
Yeah, so it's something I'm thinking about and considering. The hardest thing is the edit. As you know, the editing process is the thing. So I'm like, if I can find someone that can edit videos at a reasonable expense to a good standard, then I could imagine going a bit all into it. But it just, man, you can only spread yourself so thinly.
Guys, you heard it here. If you are a skilled one, if you are a student maybe, right, who wants to help Steve out or wants to contribute, you can always reach out.
And now I'm going to have way too many messages.
Yeah.
No, I doubt it.
So guys, thank you very much for tuning in as always. I hope you enjoyed the podcast. Leave a like, leave a subscribe, and also, of course, a comment in the comment section below. And on that note, talk to you guys next week. Cheers.
Cheers, guys.
losing weight fast while maintaining muscle mass. Sounds too good to be true, doesn't it? It isn't though. It's reality and we know how to do it. And we will help you achieve this. The Minicut Movement is an 8-week fat loss program to make you lose a huge chunk of fat while maintaining muscle mass at the same time. We will support you from the beginning to the end so that you see the results you would like to and come out of it much stronger. You'll receive a fully automated spreadsheet that is based on your nutritional needs. You can choose between 6 different male and female training templates. Over 30 videos will guide you through each and every single step of the Minicut so that you're getting the most out of your journey and that you always know what to do. But the best thing is that you can start whenever you want. The Minicut Movement is open 24/7. So if you want to learn more or you're ready to sign up, hit the link in the description below. So let's revive stronger together.